Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to tell you if your ball python male is ready to breed. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today we are talking about male ball pythons and how to know if they're actually ready to breed for you. So there's a lot of different things all over the internet. You can find a bunch of different stuff from weights to age to the actual size of them. But today we're going to go over how to know for sure that your ball python is ready to go. Alright, so number one, how old is your snake? If your snake is under 2 years old, you don't need to push it. Sometimes a 2-year-old can be ready, sometimes a little bit younger, but 2 years of old is the minimum that you really want to breed that ball python. I've heard quite a few people say that they've had 300, 400, 250 gram ball pythons that can breed, but it's all about the sexual maturity of that animal. So if that was a super picky eater, it didn't really get very big, but it's older, let's say it's 2 or 3 but super small, then yes, it probably hit sexual maturity. Or if it's eating really, really well, that also could mean that it reached sexual maturity. Number 2 is how much does it weigh? When I ask that, I also want you to think about how does that animal carry its weight. So if your animal, let's say, is super long but super skinny, looks like a corn snake, doesn't matter if he's 500, 700 grams, he doesn't have the body condition to be able to breed. When it comes to breeding ball pythons, the boys specifically tend to be a little bit picky when it comes to breeding season. You can have really awesome males that eat and never skip any meals that breed and then go back to back with eating and going back to being normal, but the majority of males are going to stop eating. Number one, you want your ball pythons to go through brumation. If you don't know what that is, we just did a video on it completely explaining everything, whether you have a pet or you're breeding. But if that animal starts brumation, then you start it breeding, and let's say you plan to use it for 4 to 6 months of breeding, that animal could stop eating anywhere in there, and you're going to now have to stop using that animal, so you may not get eggs because 1, the snake stopped eating, or 2, it started losing too much body weight. Now when it comes to your male ball python, age isn't always better, size isn't always better. A lot of people keep their males very small. I tend to treat my males very similar to my females. I will feed them when they're hungry. If I feed them every single 5 days to every 10 days, depending on what time of year it is. Sometimes I'll give the males a little bit smaller meals. I've heard of people feeding males every 2 weeks or every other time. I feed my males when I feed my girls, but only because a lot of them will go off feed for a very long time in breeding season. And if they ever start losing weight or they stop and they get really picky with food, they won't take a rat, a mouse, or an ASF, then they're done for breeding, and they don't like that, and then they generally still don't eat and want to be pretty picky because they can still smell those females. So make sure your ball python looks a good appropriate size. So this right here is actually a male that we produce. I'm going to get an exact weight for you guys in a minute, but this is his first year breeding. So I thought that this was perfect to be able to show you guys what this is a good size male ball python. He is pretty round. There's no spine sticking up. You can see the muscles on both sides. He's grown nicely in length and in size. That's how big around he is. He is on weaned rats, like I said, every week. He has no rolls when he's turning, which means he's not overweight. There's no huge spine sticking up, and when they're underweight, they kind of look like a teardrop. He is just under 2 years old, and we are going to be using him. The first time he's going to be breeding here is going to be shortly. In the next couple of months, we've been using a Banana Boy clown, so we're going to use him as well, so we'll definitely be able to tell them apart. But the reason why he works so nice is, so he did just have a shed, but unfortunately there was no sperm plugs in there, and that's what I wanted to show you guys. So that's the next sign, is if your ball python is producing sperm plugs. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, a sperm plug is when a male ball python, either they shed or you pop them and you can find them. So what it is they end up looking like two almost like little pieces of urates on their shed, which it'll be next to their cloaca, which is where their sexual organs are. It's where they go to the bathroom through. I don't like popping older snakes, anything older than a hatchling, so I'm not going to pop him currently, but when they shed, sometimes their sperm plugs will be stuck right to the shed. That shed was from 2 days ago, and it was curled up, already dried, so I couldn't find anything in there. But if you're actively looking for a shed, make sure you're keeping an eye out. As soon as they shed, you'll be able to find it a lot easier. I just cleaned everybody the other day, and I did not keep any, which I should have for this video. But if your animal is producing sperm plugs, then that means he has reached sexual maturity. Now, that doesn't mean for sure he's going to breed and produce for you, but that means that he has the ability to. Now, before you go and let's say he is of size, just like he was about Gil's size, a little bit bigger, he has his sperm plugs, you decide you want to breed him. Another thing to keep in mind is how good is his feed response. Is he a type of snake that is really shy, he likes to skip meals, or is he one that really likes to take a meal every single time you offer it? So if he takes it every time, you're good to go. He should be fine while breeding. But keep in mind, if he is a more shy or timid snake and doesn't like to eat every time that he's offered, you might have some issues down the line because he's probably going to be pretty picky for you, especially when they get into breeding mode. When ball python males start breeding, that's all they're focused on. They don't want to do anything else. They're going to breed, you're going to put them back in their own enclosure, and you're going to give them a week or two off and try to feed them. If they're not eating for you, you're not going to be able to use him very effectively. There's nothing wrong with picky boys, but you might have to wait till they're a little bit older or have a little bit more size on them to make them really effective. Now, let's say all of that is met. Everything should be good. The animal's of size, it's the right weight. You've seen sperm plugs, you put them in with a female, and they're not locking. Now, there are a few different things you can do to help promote that animal. One, give it another year. He might just be too young. He might just be too nervous. Sometimes you put in really small males with really large females and they're intimidated, they hide, and sometimes it just takes them a little bit of time to figure out. If at least they're courting each other, he's going up near her, their tails are kind of sort of intertwining, he's trying, he's working on it. But if he's just completely hiding to the opposite end of the cage of her, and let's say you try him with 3 different females, 3 different months apart, and he acts the same way, he might just be too young, he might just need a little bit more time. Some male ball pythons don't breed very well. Some, if they're too big, like you have a really fat, really large male, they're a little bit lazy and they tend to not want to breed as well, which is why a lot of breeders keep them on the smaller side. But another trick, there are 2 different ones that I've heard of. What you do is you wait until there is a storm, when there's a big, huge pressure change, when it's a thunderstorm outside, when the pressures outside are all crazy all over the place, or there's a big storm, for whatever reason, they love to breed. Don't know why, but if there's a storm and you normally breed on Saturdays and it's a Thursday, just put those boys in a couple days early. I have done it, and I have put them all in there. It started thunder and lightning outside. I came down to check on everybody, and they're all already locking, including boys who hadn't in the past. So that is a really good tip. And also keep in mind, unless you're checking them all the time, which might actually be stressing them out, sometimes they lock really quick and they're done. Sometimes they'll only lock for an hour or 2, and if you put them together, you go to work, come home, you never see them lock. She could still be getting locked. She could eventually be gravid because of it. So keep in mind that, again, unless you're constantly bothering and checking, you might not know for sure if they're actually breeding. So if you see her start to grow follicles, she starts to wrap her water bowl, then things are going the right direction. But some snakes like to breed for a couple of days straight. So if he is, just let him keep going until they separate or they're sitting on top of each other rather than wrapped around each other. If you guys don't know what a breeding lock or anything looks like, I've got videos on it. We're going to make some videos here soon with this breeding season coming up. Hopefully Gil becomes a dad this year. And the absolute last thing that I've heard, the thing I've never done but heard really good reviews from other people, is if you have a male who just won't breed, what you do is you'll actually take a shed from another male, one that is proven. It'll probably have the sperm plugs on it, and you just put it in the female's bin. Then you take, let's say Gil won't breed, and Tyrone, our other male, is a really good breeder. So if Tyrone sheds, we'll put his shed in with, let's say, Harley, our GHI Mojave female, and then we put Gil in there at the same time. He will smell the shed, and it tends to make them more competitive, and he smells that other male's been there, and he's like, well, dang, I got to get some of that. So by putting another male who's a proven breeder shed in with the female and then introducing that male, sometimes it'll get them going. So that's just a little tip. Also, I've never done it, but I've heard other breeders who have done it with really good success. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do a few videos every single week. So I'll see you guys in the next video.